There comes a moment, sacred, set apart, when the veil is lifted and the truth is spoken. Or come, chosen one, this is that moment. You've felt it, the stirring, the question that won't go away. Why the fire in your bones? Why the longing that doesn't sleep? Why the warfare over your life? Because you were chosen, not by man, not by blood, not by will, but by the hand of the eternal. Before time began, the Almighty whispered your name into the fabric of creation. He marked you, not for comfort, but for calling, not for applause, but for authority, not for survival, but for significance. You've walked through valleys you couldn't explain, storms that made no sense, doors that slammed shut when they should have opened, but it was all a setup for the unveiling. It's time to tell you everything. What you thought was delay was divine alignment. What you thought was rejection was redirection. What you thought was loss was preparation. You see, heaven does not operate by the logic of men. God decides. When men said, you're not enough, God said, I choose you. When the enemy said it's over, God said, I'm just beginning. You carry something, a word, a mission, a mantle. You've been hidden, but not forgotten. You've been broken, but not disqualified. You've been silent, but now it's your time to speak. This is the hour of awakening. The Spirit is moving. The heavens are opening. And the same voice that formed the galaxies is now whispering to your spirit. Rise, chosen one. The time is now. Step into the identity sealed by God's decree. Speak what he puts in your mouth. Go where he leads your feet. Do not fear the faces of men, for God has decided. You're not an accident in this generation, you are an answer. A light in the chaos, a trumpet in the silence, a fire in the cold. So go forth, not as one seeking approval, but as one sent, of one trying to survive, but as one ordained to shake the earth. You are the chosen. You are the called. You are the vessel. And now is the time. Before the foundations of the world were set, before the stars found their place in the sky, before time itself began its rhythm, there was a decision, a divine decision, not based on what you would do, not on what you could offer, not even on your strength or your weakness. It was based on something higher, something sacred. You were known, you were seen, you were chosen. Long before your first breath, before your name was ever spoken on earth, it was already written in heaven, not in ink that fades, but in fire that endures. There was a purpose crafted around your life, a calling woven into your very existence. You didn't stumble into this world, you were released into it. Sent, appointed, not by accident, but by intention. The battles you face, the weight you carry, they are not signs that you're out of place. They're confirmations that you're in the middle of something far greater than what eyes can see. You were marked in a realm untouched by time. And because you were chosen in eternity, no force in time can revoke that choosing. Even when you didn't feel it, it was true. Even when everything in your life screamed the opposite. When rejection came, when you were overlooked, when you were cast aside, the choosing remained. The choosing was not man's to give, and it's not man's to take away. Heaven's eyes were on you before your parents ever saw you. God's breath formed your destiny before your lungs ever inhaled air. The choosing preceded your performance. It preceded your mistakes. It preceded even your awareness of him. You've been walking with a seal on your soul, a calling wrapped in mystery. That's why you've never fit the mold. That's why the world couldn't define you, because your definition came from another place, one untouched by culture, by trend, by the opinions of men. You were set apart in silence, hidden while being formed, guarded while being prepared, chosen not for the path of ease, but for the path of impact. You were chosen for something that could not be born in comfort, but had to be forged in fire. And though you may have questioned it, run from it, doubted it, what is written in the eternal cannot be erased by the temporal. The calling still speaks. The choosing still stands. The voice that named you still echoes across the ages. You've looked at your life and wondered why the path was never straight, why the road was often hidden in fog, why doors opened only to close again, why people entered and exited like shadows. Nothing seemed to follow a pattern. Nothing made sense. Not the timing, not the pain, not the delays. And in the silence, you asked the question no one could answer. Why this road? From the outside, it looked like aimless wandering. From within, it felt like being led without a map. Every time you thought you had arrived, the ground shifted. Every time you found clarity, the winds changed. The dreams you held on to were tested in the dark. The promises you believed were stretched to breaking. You carried hope in one hand and confusion in the other, not knowing that what you called chaos was actually being ordered. The detours weren't random, they were divine. The interruptions weren't accidents, they were instructions. There were things you couldn't see, and so the path was veiled. There were battles ahead you didn't know about, and so you were delayed to be strengthened. There were places your feet were not yet ready to stand, so the journey was lengthened so your spirit could grow. You were never being punished, you were being prepared. And in that preparation, heaven wrote secrets into your soul. There were things being shaped in you: resilience, discernment, dependence, fire, qualities that don't grow in ease, depths that are only carved through mystery. What felt like silence was God speaking in a different language. What felt like distance was his nearness in disguise. And what you thought was lost time was actually strategic timing. You weren't behind, you were being positioned, hidden not for punishment, but for protection. Delayed not to discourage you, but to ensure you would arrive when the world was finally ready to receive what you carry. There's a reason why you couldn't explain it, why the pieces didn't fit. Because the story being written wasn't meant to follow the rules of the world. It wasn't about logic. It was about legacy. It wasn't about comfort. It was about kingdom. There is a sound that doesn't come from the earth, a voice that doesn't speak in the language of men. It doesn't shout, but it pierces. It doesn't demand, yet it commands. It reaches places that words can't go, deep places, hidden places, places you've buried beneath silence and survival. It has been calling you, not just today, not just this year, but always. It called you when you were a child, when you looked at the world and knew there was more. It whispered to you in the night, when the noise died down and your spirit was still. It echoed through your disappointments, through the pain, through the confusion. It waited when you stopped listening. It lingered when others walked away. It never left. This voice doesn't belong to the world. It doesn't answer to trends. It's not concerned with credentials or approval. It is the same voice that said, "Let there be light," and light came running. It is the voice that calls things that are not as though they were. It is not asking for your perfection. It's calling you into purpose. You've been hiding, not because you wanted to, but because the world didn't know what to do with you. They labeled you, misunderstood you, overlooked you. You became silent not because you had nothing to say, but because you weren't sure anyone could hear the language your soul was speaking. You learned to stay in the background, to make yourself small. But the voice has found you there. It's calling you, not to shame you, but to summon you out of the shadows, out of the places where you've diminished yourself, out of the fear that told you you're not enough. This voice knows exactly who you are and still calls you forward. It sees the cracks and still declares your worth. It knows the detours, the failures, the scars, and still it speaks your name with power. This is not the voice of man. This is the voice of the one who formed you, the one who knows what he placed in you, the one who has waited for this hour, the one who has never stopped speaking even when you stopped listening. It doesn't matter how far you wandered, how long you stayed in hiding. The voice is still there. It's not fading. It's getting louder because it's time. There is something about you that cannot be explained by your upbringing, your environment, or your past. It goes deeper than talent, deeper than personality. It's something unshakable, something undeniable, even when you try to dismiss it. It has followed you like a shadow, even when you didn't understand it. You carry the mark of destiny. It is why you've always felt different, why you couldn't blend in, even when you tried, why certain doors didn't open for you, not because you weren't worthy, but because they weren't worthy of you. There's been a weight on your life, not a burden of shame, but of purpose, something sacred. Heaven has placed its fingerprint upon you, and that mark cannot be removed by time, failure, or fear. Others may not have seen it. They may have measured you by the outside, by what you lacked, by what you didn't yet become. But the one who marked you looked past the surface. He looked into the eternal and saw what he himself had placed within you. That mark isn't earned, it's embedded. You don't carry it because you were perfect. You carry it because you were chosen. There's been resistance in your life, not because you were going the wrong way, but because the enemy recognized what you carried. The warfare, the attacks, the discouragement. It all came to distract you from the reality of who you are. Because when you walk in that identity, things begin to shift. The mark speaks louder than opposition. It reminds hell that you were not born to bow, but to build, not to merely exist, but to awaken something in others. This mark is why the world can't define you. It's why you've never fully fit their mold. You weren't made for imitation. You were designed for impact. There's an authority in your voice, even when you whisper. There's weight in your presence, even when you don't speak. The mark does not need validation. It carries its own evidence. Destiny is not an idea for you. It is a reality you've wrestled with. It has haunted you in quiet moments. It has kept you from settling when others were content. It has pulled at you, stretched you, refined you, because what you carry isn't just for you. It's for others. It's for a generation. You are not ordinary. You are not overlooked by heaven. There's a reason for the mark. There's a reason for the mystery. There's a reason you're still standing. There comes a point when every voice around you begins to lose its grip, when the applause, the rejection, the expectations all start to fall silent, because in the end, none of them decide. Not the ones who celebrated you, not the ones who doubted you, not even the circumstances that tried to define you. God decides. It wasn't man who formed you in the womb. It wasn't man who breathed life into your lungs, so it cannot be man who determines your worth. People may have tried to name you, shape you, limit you. They may have told you who you could or could not be, but heaven had already spoken long before they opened their mouths. The verdict over your life was rendered in the courts of eternity, not in the opinions of people. Circumstances change. They rise and fall like waves. Sometimes they build you up, sometimes they break you down, but they are not sovereign. They are not the author of your story. You may have walked through fire. You may have faced storms that left you breathless, but not a single moment was outside the gaze of the one who called you. What tried to destroy you never had the final word, because circumstances bow to sovereignty. When everything around you said it's over, God whispered, "I'm not finished." When you felt unqualified, he reminded you that he never chose you based on qualifications. When you were outnumbered, he reminded you that he never needed odds to win battles. He is not waiting on permission to use you. He is not limited by your past or your present. He does not need favorable conditions to release purpose. Indifference is on the whole menu. His decisions are final. His calling is irrevocable. He does not consult your enemies before he blesses you. He does not ask for approval when he raises you up. And when he opens a door, no man can shut it. When he says go, no chain can hold you. When he says rise, not even the grave can stop you. This is the power of divine authority. The world may shift. People may leave, plans may collapse, but the decision of God stands like a mountain, unshaken, unmoved, unchallenged. You are not living by chance. You are walking by decision, his decision. You've been still long enough. You've waited, you've questioned, you've held back, watching for the right moment, the right sign, the perfect clarity. But now something is stirring, something ancient, something holy. It's the call to rise. Not in arrogance, not in self-promotion, but in obedience to the one who has called you. The ground beneath you is shifting, and the time for silence is over. The time for hesitation is done. It's time to rise. The voice that once called you in secret is now thundering in the open. You can't ignore it anymore. You can't hide behind the excuse of not being ready, because it's not about your readiness. It's about his timing, and his timing has come. This is not a suggestion. This is not an invitation to comfort. This is a command from heaven. Rise. You've been through the wilderness and it shaped you. You've walked through fire and it refined you. But now the ashes are falling away, and what remains is the vessel he formed. You've been filled with a word, a message, a truth that cannot stay buried any longer. You were not made to remain quiet. You were not formed to blend in. You were created to speak. Truth that shakes foundations, light that breaks through lies, a sound that carries the weight of heaven. It's time to open your mouth, not just in passion, but in purpose. The silence served a season. The hiding had a reason, but now the reason has met its moment. Your voice may tremble, but it must be heard, because when you speak, it's not just words, it's alignment. Alignment with the one who set this all in motion. You don't need a stage, you just need surrender. You don't need approval, you need fire.
To align with your essence, everything around you also begins to align. However, this does not mean the journey will always be easy. There will be days when you feel nostalgia, doubt, and even fear that you made the wrong decision. But these feelings are not signs that you should turn back. They are part of the reconstruction process. It's like remodeling a house. First, you have to tear down walls, face the dust and chaos before you can create a new and beautiful space. Jung would remind us that this chaos is not something to fear. It is a fertile ground where true transformation can take root. When you decide to prioritize something deeper, something begins to unfold. Your dreams, the ones you may have buried, start resurfacing. Maybe you always wanted to pursue something you were passionate about, but the expectations of others led you down a different path. Or perhaps you felt that you weren't good enough to chase your goals. This is the moment when those limiting beliefs begin to crumble. Because by letting go of what doesn't belong to you, you are also releasing the fears and doubts that others projected onto you. One fascinating thing Jung taught is that the unconscious doesn't just store our shadows and fears, it also holds our greatest potential. Within you, there are talents, ideas, and abilities you have yet to explore. Not because they don't exist, but because you hadn't created the space for them to emerge. When you choose to live in alignment with your authenticity, those parts of you start to manifest in ways you never imagined. It's as if by releasing the old, you are igniting a light that illuminates everything that was once hidden. This process also teaches you something valuable. You don't have to do it alone. Jung deeply believed in human connection and how our relationships can be a source of support and growth. But these connections must be genuine, built on mutual respect and acceptance of who you truly are. When you surround yourself with people who celebrate your authenticity instead of trying to change you, you discover the true power of human relationships. It's important to remember that this journey is not about eliminating everyone from your life. It's about discernment, about consciously choosing who aligns with you and who does not. The relationships that truly matter are the ones where you can be yourself. Without fear, without pretense, without feeling like you have to prove your worth. Jung said that authentic relationships not only nourish our soul, but also push us to grow, expand, and become the best version of ourselves. As you move forward, you will realize something powerful. The peace you were searching for outside has always been within you. You don't need others to complete you, because you are already whole. You don't need external validation, because your worth does not depend on anyone's opinion. This is the greatest gift you can give yourself. The freedom to be who you are, without asking for permission, without apologies, without fear. Maintaining this authenticity in your daily life may seem challenging, especially when the world around you operates on superficiality, expectations, and conformity. But here's the key. Living authentically does not mean being perfect or having all the answers. It means choosing each day to align with who you truly are, even in the midst of uncertainty and external pressures. Jung taught us that the greatest enemy of our authenticity is not others. It is our own shadows, those parts of ourselves we fear to face, the ones we have repressed because they don't fit the image we want to project. But here lies the true power. When you begin to integrate those shadows, they no longer control you. Instead of sabotaging you, they become a source of wisdom and strength. A clear example of this is how we react to the judgment of others. When you live from your authenticity, there will inevitably be people who don't understand it or even criticize you. But those criticisms can only affect you if they touch something within you that you haven't accepted. If you've made peace with your shadows, those words lose their power. Not because you become insensitive, but because you recognize that what others say about you has more to do with them than with you. The next step on this journey is learning to set boundaries. This doesn't mean closing your heart or distancing yourself from everyone, but rather being clear about what you allow in your life. Carl Jung said that our relationships are a reflection of our relationship with ourselves. If others treat you with disdain or make you feel less than, it's a sign that there are still parts of you that need love and acceptance. Setting boundaries is not an act of selfishness. It's an act of respect, both for yourself and for others. Imagine your energy as a garden. Every relationship, every interaction is a seed you plant. Some seeds bloom, bringing beauty and joy into your life, while others can turn into weeds, draining your energy and robbing you of space to grow. Learning to tend to your inner garden is essential to maintaining your authenticity. This means surrounding yourself with people who nourish your soul, who celebrate your growth, and who are willing to walk with you, not behind or ahead, but by your side. Another crucial aspect is listening to your intuition. In our society, this inner power is often underestimated, but Jung considered it one of the most valuable tools for navigating life. Your intuition is that quiet voice that guides you toward what is true for you. Sometimes it manifests as a sense of peace. Other times, as a subtle discomfort that warns you when something is out of alignment. Listening to it requires practice and trust, but the more you do, the stronger it becomes. Authenticity also connects you with your purpose. Jung believed that we all have a unique calling, something only we can bring to the world. But to discover it, you need to free yourself from distractions, from the expectations of others, and from the limiting beliefs you accumulated throughout your life. When you do, you begin to notice patterns in the things that ignite your passion, in the moments that make you feel truly alive, and in the ideas you can't ignore. That is the universe speaking to you, showing you your path. As you progress in this process, you'll notice a subtle but profound shift in how you experience life. The small things that once went unnoticed start to hold deeper meaning. A conversation with a friend, a moment of peace in nature, even an unexpected challenge. These moments become opportunities to grow, to learn, and to connect with yourself and others. It's as if everything in your life suddenly takes on a new sense of purpose. This transformation also has a greater impact than you might imagine. When you choose to live from your authenticity, you inspire others to do the same. You don't need to give speeches or convince anyone. Your example is enough. The people around you will begin to notice the change in you, your clarity, your peace, your renewed energy. And while not everyone will be ready to follow your path, some will be. You will be a light in their lives, proof that it's possible to live with purpose and fulfillment. When you live from your authenticity, a shift occurs in the dynamics of your relationships. You no longer seek others' approval to validate who you are. Instead, you become someone who naturally inspires respect and admiration, not because you seek it, but because your energy radiates confidence, clarity, and peace. Carl Jung would say this happens because you have integrated what he called the self, that essential core of your being that harmonizes your conscious and unconscious mind. As this integration deepens, you begin to see the world with new eyes. The experiences that once disturbed you lose their grip on you. Instead of feeling trapped in external conflicts, you start seeking the inner lessons that each situation brings. It's a subtle but transformative shift. You stop reacting to life and begin responding from a place of calm and wisdom. This new perspective does not mean that life becomes perfect or that challenges disappear. In fact, sometimes these challenges intensify because living from your truth inevitably leads you to question systems, relationships, and structures you once took for granted. Jung taught us that this process is like clearing away what no longer serves to make space for something more authentic and aligned with you. Something fascinating is how the people around you react to this transformation. Some will be drawn to your renewed energy, seeking to understand how you have achieved that peace you now radiate. But others might feel uncomfortable because your authenticity confronts them with the areas of their own lives they have neglected. This is not something you should take as a personal attack. On the contrary, it is a sign that your process is generating a profound impact, even beyond what you can see. At this point, maintaining your focus becomes crucial. The external noise can be tempting. People trying to convince you to change, to go back, to reconsider your decisions. But this is where your connection with your intuition, that inner compass that never fails, becomes your greatest ally. Jung said that intuition is not just an instinct. It is the voice of your unconscious guiding you toward what is in harmony with your true purpose. As you move forward on this path, you will likely begin to notice a curious phenomenon. The doors that once seemed closed start to open. New opportunities, connections, and experiences begin to flow toward you with an ease that once seemed impossible. This is neither magic nor coincidence. It is a result of living in alignment with yourself. When you stop fighting against what does not resonate and start acting from your authenticity, you create an energetic field that attracts what you need to thrive. It is important to remember that this journey is not linear. There will be days when you feel strong and unstoppable, and others when doubts return. But even in those moments, remember that the simple act of choosing yourself is already an act of bravery. You do not need to have all the answers today. The only thing you need is the willingness to keep walking, to keep exploring, and to keep trusting that you are exactly where you need to be. Over time, you will realize that this transformation has not only changed your life, but also the lives of those around you. Your relationships begin to reflect the quality of your energy. Those who remain by your side do so because they are aligned with you, not because they need something from you. And those who drift away are not a loss but a release, a reminder that not everything or everyone is meant to stay with you forever. As this journey toward your authenticity progresses, you realize something essential. What you once considered chaos, you now see as a necessary part of your growth. The relationships you let go of, the situations you left behind, and the challenges you faced were not obstacles, but lessons that prepared you to be who you are now. Carl Jung said that life is not about avoiding suffering, but about finding meaning in every experience, even in the most difficult moments, and that is exactly what you are doing by choosing your truth. This path not only transforms your relationship with yourself, but also with the world around you. When you decide to live from your authenticity, you become a beacon, an inspiration for others. You may not notice it at first, but there are people watching your evolution. People who need that reminder that it is also possible for them. Your courage in choosing yourself shows them that there is another path. One where peace and purpose are not distant dreams, but achievable realities. And this is where your impact expands. Every decision you make, every step you take towards your authenticity creates a ripple effect. It will inspire others to reflect, to question themselves, and perhaps to make their own transformative decisions. That is the beauty of this journey. It not only changes your life, but also touches the lives of those around you in profound and meaningful ways. Now, I want to invite you to take the next step. If this message resonated with you, if something within you stirred while listening to these words, do not ignore it. This could be the beginning of a change that transforms your life. But you do not have to do it alone. Share this video with someone who you feel needs to hear it. Someone searching for answers or struggling with similar doubts. Never underestimate the power of a word, an idea, or a message shared at the right moment. It could be exactly what that person needs to take a turn on their path. Let me know which part of this message touched you the most. What reflection stayed with you? What decision are you ready to make? Leave your comment below. I want to read your story, your thoughts, your dreams. Your words not only inspire me to continue creating content like this, but they also help this message reach more people. Our community is what keeps this conversation alive, what amplifies this message and brings it to those who need it most. If you have not yet done so, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss any of our upcoming videos. Every interaction, every comment, and every subscription is not just support for the channel. It is a way to expand this message and build a community where knowledge and authenticity are at the center. Together, we can create a space where more people discover their true potential and find the tools to live in alignment with their truth. Change begins with you, but it does not end there. Every small act, every decision, has the power to transform not only your life, but also the world around you. Thank you for being here, for listening, and most of all, for taking the first step toward the life you have always deserved. See you in the next video. Be authentic, be brave, and never stop seeking your truth.